Come follow me. 2 Kings 6:15-17. More with us than against us. By Elder Massimo de Feo. Of the 70. Although my parents never joined the church, I was baptized at a young age. As I grew in the gospel, I became fascinated by the stories in the scriptures. I related to the story of the prophet Elisha's young servant. And when the servant of the man of God was risen early, and gone forth, behold, an host compassed the city both with horses and chariots. And his servant said unto him, Alas, my master, how shall we do? And Elisha answered, Fear not, for they that be with us are more than they that be with them. And Elisha prayed and said, Lord, I pray thee, open his eyes that he may see. And the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw. And behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire round about Elisha. 2 Kings 6:15-17. I faced the challenges of being the only member of the church at school, despite finding myself alone, feeling outnumbered and at times fearful. This story helped me feel surrounded by angels. That feeling has never left me. The prophet Elisha's words, Fear not, for they that be with us are more than they that be with them, remind me that I am never really alone. President Henry B. Eyring, first counselor in the first presidency, has taught, Like that servant of Elisha, there are more with you than those you can see opposed to you. Some who are with you will be invisible to your mortal eyes. The Lord will bear you up and will at times do it by calling others to stand with you. I have come to realize that the spiritual strength I felt as a teenager came not only from the support of earthly and heavenly angels, but also from solid doctrinal foundations. Here are some lessons I have learned from asking the Lord to open my eyes when I felt fearful or alone, just as Elisha's servant asked, How shall we do? Faith over fear. This world is hard, and our challenges are real, especially for those of the rising generation. Many times we may panic and be fearful when we feel alone in our challenges. Nevertheless, when Elisha's servant saw the Syrian army surround them and panicked, Elisha responded with calm assurance, Fear not. This was not just wishing that things would get better, or ignoring a dramatic and challenging situation. This was real spiritual vision based on true faith in the Lord, who could and would deliver them. This spiritual vision went beyond what Elisha saw with his physical eyes. We learn from this story that fear is natural, but faith is intentional. Fear often comes from what we see. Faith comes when we choose to hope for things which are not seen, which are true. Alma 32:21. It comes from what the Spirit assures us to be true, keeping our covenants and trusting that God's promises will be fulfilled. By faith, Elisha saw beyond the physical threat to the reality that God's power was present and angels were ready to minister, intervene, and save them. In the dedicatory prayer for the Kirtland Temple, the prophet Joseph Smith prayed, And we ask thee, Holy Father, that thy servants may go forth from this house armed with thy power, and that thy name may be upon them, and thy glory be round about them, and thine angels have charge over them. Doctrine and Covenants 109:22. Like the army of angels that surrounded Elisha and his young servant, angels can be sent by the Lord to minister to us when we keep our covenants. Intentional faith indeed comes from eternal perspective and invites divine intervention. President Dallin H. Oaks has declared that our fears can be overcome by our faith in God and His plan, and the atonement of His only begotten Son, Jesus Christ. Prophets in our lives. Elisha didn't just reassure or encourage his servant. He prayed that his eyes would be opened. This is the role of prophets today. In times of confusion and fear, prophets help us see clearly. They calm our hearts in times of storms. They teach us eternal truths that help us face challenges that seem insurmountable. They allow us to see that divine help is available if we follow their counsel and keep our covenants. President Russell M. Nelson taught, When your spiritual foundation is built solidly upon Jesus Christ, you have no need to fear. Just as Elisha helped open his servant's eyes, prophets invite us to build on Christ, our only sure foundation, to find peace and dispel fear through faith in Him. God's presence. The servant did not see the heavenly host until Elisha prayed, but they were there all along. The truth is that God can be with us always, whether we feel it or not. When we feel alone or discouraged, and even when we feel distant from Him, God's presence is constant. His help does not depend on our awareness of Him. It depends on our faithfulness to our covenant relationship with Him. God is bound when we keep our covenants with Him. See Doctrine and Covenants 82:10. He will not abandon us. We might not see chariots of fire around us, but when we trust God and keep our covenants, He will send angels from both sides of the veil round about us to bear us up in our most difficult times. Doctrine and Covenants 84:88. We are never truly alone. No matter what we see or don't see, God's promises remain. Angels in my life. After my mission, I was looking for a job. I assumed the Lord would help me immediately and abundantly. I soon realized that blessings are not always automatic, like putting money in a vending machine and getting exactly what we want, when and how we want it. Time went by, and my faith was tested. I was not seeing the blessings I had expected. But one day, unexpectedly, I was called in for an interview for a dream job. I was the last to be interviewed. When I entered the room, the senior officer greeted me and said he would be assisted by a junior officer who was there on temporary assignment that day. The junior officer reviewed my resume and said, "I see that you have been a full-time missionary." Me too. I served a mission too. I was surprised to learn that he was a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and a former missionary. He said to the senior officer, "I don't know this young man, but he has been a full-time missionary for my church. I know what it takes to be a faithful missionary. I can tell you that you can trust him." I was shocked. He became a witness for me without even knowing me. I've often wondered what the chances were that a former missionary in Rome, Italy, would be in that office on a temporary assignment that day. I believe he was an angel sent to help me. And I got the job. I felt great fear after my mission. Like Elisha's servant, I asked, "How shall I do?" But even more vividly, I felt overwhelming joy as the words of Elisha, "Fear not, for they that be with us are more than they that be with them," suddenly became an undeniable reality for me. That day, I knew that the Lord sends angels to help us. With Him, we are never alone. This audio was created using artificial intelligence.